everyone. I'm Jun Lee, the host of today's talk. Before we get started, please turn off your cell phone or switching it to silent mode. Thank you. Have you ever participated in any kind of volunteering program? In my case, after I entered my university, my first volunteering work was to teach high school students and help them study math during winter vacation. In addition, I have donated blood a total of 16 times now. This also could be used as volunteer hours. Here are my blood donation certificates. Today, Chad LaRoche is going to give a talk entitled A Peace Corps Volunteer. He will discuss the life-changing experience he had when he served as a volunteer with the United States Peace Corps, along with the challenges and excitement of living in a developing world paradise. And if you have any questions for Chad during the talk, please write them down on the small sheet of paper you were given when you arrived, and Chad can answer them during the question and answer session of today's talk. So please wait to ask your questions. Without any other thoughts, please welcome Chad with a big round of applause.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for showing up to my talk. Can't tell you how surreal this is, having my own seat and giving a speech about the Peace Corps, but this is really exciting for me because I don't really talk about it that much, but it's probably the most profound experience in my life. I'll mention it in pieces here and there to people, but to be able to show pictures and stand here and just talk about it, I'm really stoked, really excited to be here. So, first of all, has anybody been a Peace Corps volunteer? Is anybody in the process of applying for the Peace Corps? Oh, really? Okay. Interesting. Good for you. I recommend it. It was a good experience for me. Very, very, very good experience for me. And I guess today I'll talk a little bit about what the Peace Corps is overall, and then I'll talk mostly about my personal experience. I named it a Peace Corps experience, not the Peace Corps experience, because every experience is different depending on what country you go to and depending on just what experience you make of it, because a lot of it is what you make of it. And so I'll begin. Here we go. What is the Peace Corps, first of all? It's a United States volunteer organization, and it was established on March 1st, 1961 by President John F. Kennedy at the time. To date, 220,000 volunteers have served in over 140 countries, in 140 countries. And today, right now, there are about 6,818 volunteers in 64 countries around the world. After training, volunteers will serve for 2 years. Training is usually 3 months, but in my case, training was only 2 months because in the country I served in, there was no language requirement. English is the national language of my country. There is a Vincentian dialect, so a mix of English and African languages, which made it basically a second language, very difficult to understand at first. But 26 to 27 months, Peace Corps volunteers will be in their country. Volunteers receive a monthly stipend, so it's not a time to save money. It's you get a living allowance every month, and pretty much you go through that each month, paycheck to paycheck. So really, it's not a place to save money, but it is a place to contribute and have a good experience. When you finish Peace Corps, you are given a small sum of money to help you readjust to your life, your next move in your life. The average age of volunteers is 28. 94% of volunteers are single, 6% are married. At my time, you could serve as a married couple. Nowadays, some countries will accept you as just a couple. You don't have to be married. So you can serve in the Peace Corps Not all countries will accept couples, but some will not. And volunteers over 50 years old, there's about 7% of the volunteers. So I think most recently the oldest volunteer was 83 years old, about. So the Peace Corps has 3 goals. First goal, to help the people of interested countries meet their need for trained men and women. So a country that wants volunteers will outline their goals, what things they want accomplished in their country, and talk to the US government, and from there, volunteers with those skills will go into that country. Goal number 2 is to promote a better understanding of Americans on the part of peoples served. So this is the big reason Peace Corps was set up, was to kind of eliminate the ugly American stereotype of, because America obviously has a lot of cultural exportation with movies and music, and a lot of countries have the wrong idea of what America is all about. And so volunteers are really ambassadors for their country, and they go into other countries and give a good representation just by being themselves and helping the community and contributing. So it's second goal. Third goal is to promote a better understanding of other peoples on the part of Americans. And that's what I'm doing right now, really. I'm taking my experience and I'm sharing it, not with all Americans, some Americans, but I'm sharing it with other parts of the world. Quickly, what volunteers do. Most of them are in education, as you can see. A lot of them are health volunteers, so a lot of HIV, AIDS, outreach and assistance with that. Also nutrition and hygiene. Next we have community development. What do we have? Community economic development, so helping small businesses grow, things like that. Environment volunteers are next. And youth development, we have creating programs for youth to help develop the minds of disadvantaged youth. And then we have agriculture volunteers, so working with farmers and farming practices, creating more efficient farming practices. And then Peace Corps response is a very special field in the Peace Corps. It's, usually, if I understand it right, you have to finish the Peace Corps to be eligible for a Peace Corps response. It's only a 1-year stint, or you have to have maybe 5 to 10 years of experience to be qualified to be a Peace Corps response volunteer. This is where volunteers go currently. Most of them, 43%, are in Africa. And then next we have Latin America at 21%, and Eastern Europe, Central Asia, so places like Kazakhstan and places like that. And then we have 10% in Asia, and so on. Peace Corps used to be in Korea back in the 80s. So Peace Corps has a good relationship with KOICA, which is kind of Korea's version of, not a version of Peace Corps, but it's another international volunteer organization. Okay, so I was a PCV, Peace Corps volunteer in St. Vincent and the Grenadines from February 2011 till April 2013, so 26 months I was there. And this small little island, so we have St. Vincent and the Grenadines. There are 32 islands and keys. Some of them are populated, some of them are inhabited, others are just big tourist spots. Like, it brings a lot of yachters over from Europe in their nice boats, and they go here, and it's beautiful. The whole country is beautiful. The Grenadines are gorgeous. It's an absolutely beautiful country, and I was very lucky to be sent there. It's not to say that it was any easier than many other jobs, but I did have a lot of pretty things to look at in the environment. So to give you a bigger scope, US, South America, here's the Caribbean, the archipelago here, and zooming in a little closer, you can see it goes like this, and I was right here, right on the tail. St. Vincent specks. It's about 26 kilometers by 15 kilometers in size. Population about 10,000 on the mainland, 100,000 on the mainland and about 10,000 in the smaller islands in the Grenadines. The economy is mostly in agriculture and bananas. They've had a lot of problems with bananas due to weather and disease, crop disease. And tourism, it is definitely the lesser of the touristic islands, mostly because St. Vincent is very hard to get to. You have to take a couple different planes to get there. The beaches are black sand because of the volcano, so it's not ideal, beautiful beach that a lot of tourists want. The Grenadines have very white sand beaches, so those are popular for tourists. Language, English, and Vincentian Creole. Like I said, it used to be a British colony, so when slaves were brought over from Africa, their African language mixed in with the English language, and it created this Vincentian Creole, this mix, which I can't speak for you right now, I'm sorry, I never mastered it. Ethnicity, mostly African, some European. Indians were brought over after slavery as indentured servants, so there's some Indian population, and also the indigenous Terra group mixed in with the Africans. And Peace Corps involvement, mostly youth development, some NGO, non-governmental organization development. So let's get into what I did. This is St. Vincent. This is a look at the big volcano. Here's an overhead shot. I like to show the volcano clearly. The craters, it's an active volcano, so it last erupted in '79. And this is just kind of a teaser shot. This is not what all the water looks like in St. Vincent. This is in the Tobago Keys, one of the really special spots. But the water is just bright blue. And here we are, the volunteers. We're watching a sunset here. And that leads me into training in St. Lucia. So in training, we had 44 volunteers. We spent 1 week in St. Lucia, which is an island north of where I serve. And from there we had training in cross-cultural training. We had health and safety and a little bit of technical training, so training for what our jobs were going to be. And we spent 1 week together. After that, we split into 4 groups. 12 of us went to St. Vincent, 12 remained in St. Lucia, 12 went to Dominica, which is north of St. Lucia, and then 12 went to Grenada, which is another island south of my island, St. Vincent. When we arrived, we went to the Peace Corps headquarters, and there our host family picked us up. You live with a host family for 2 months. That's a family of Vincentians. And they take care of you and they kind of introduce you into the culture. In most Peace Corps, in all Peace Corps positions around the world, you live with a host family during training. In some cases, you live with a host family for the entire duration of your stint. So this is my host family. We have Junior. He was also a trainer, so I got a ride with him every day to training. And Glenda was my host mom. She worked at a school for special needs, and my little sister Jashona. Jamela is another who's not pictured. But Jashona is great, very smart, very cute. But she's very bossy. So she would kind of channel the family rules into me. What mom and dad wouldn't tell me, she would let me know. I'm eating too much tomato or using too much hot shower. This is my host family's house. I was living in this little section right here. This is my bedroom. So it was nice. I had my own little area that I could escape into if I needed to. Life was just too much at the time. But they were very good for my host family. And here's a closer look. We had a dog, Chavez, and barked incessantly, nonstop. Here's a breadfruit tree. Breadfruit trees are all over the island. Massive, beautiful trees. Their history, they're imported into the island as food for the slaves during slavery. To get a breadfruit, you take a long bamboo pole, tie a knife to the end. Here my host dad is showing me how it's done, and you grab the stem with the knife and just give it an easy snip. He made it look so easy. and it just drops to the ground. So I gave it a shot, and I tried once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and I almost gave up, but I got it and ripped down the whole branch with it. And then we put it on a bed of coals and cooked it up. Roast breadfruit, a very popular dish. It's like a spongy, starchy, really good with saltfish, which is preserved with salt. And it's delicious. So then we had 2 months of training in St. Vincent. Sorry, 7 weeks. And this is my group here. We had one married couple, Mrs. Carter and Mr. Carter. He was into welding and she was working with an NGO. And most volunteers were in a primary school or a secondary school or working with an NGO. And my boss here, Mr. Cool, that was his name. That's what we called him, Cuthbert James Mr. Cool. And so when you finish with training, you swear in as volunteers. You're not an official volunteer until you've sworn in. So this was not us, this was another group, the group right before. So my community. Really important emphasis of the Peace Corps is getting into the community and just immersing yourself and just kind of being one with everybody, really. And first of all, my house, I moved out of my host family's house and into my own home. I lived on the bottom floor here. My landlords lived up top, and they were almost kind of like my second host family. They took care of me. Here's my living room. Pretty nice, not bad. A lot of people think that Peace Corps is going to the bathroom in a hole in the backyard and living in a dirt hut, but that is not the case in the Caribbean. This is my bedroom. I had a lot of mosquitoes. I had a mosquito net to protect me in my nice bathroom. And my kitchen. The biggest problem I had here were the cockroach infestation. One night I woke up to a cockroach running up my leg, my entire body, and I stood up, he ran away, and we had a showdown. This place was covered one time at the peak. I don't like to kill things, and I would scoop a cockroach out. But when it was like 7 of them and babies, then I declared war, and it was messy. So here's my veranda, and I lived in a valley. You could hear absolutely everything in this valley. You could hear a cow hanging out here mooing, just reverberating. And you can hear the fishermen. They have a truck, and they fill up their truck boxes with fish, and they have a conch shell that they blow to let you know they're there and they're selling fish. And you could hear it as it just drove all the way up there. Really cool sounds living where I lived. And my yard was full of fruit and cherries and mangoes and bananas here. And I did hand wash my laundry. Have you ever hand washed your laundry? Yeah, probably. I did not enjoy it. This was down the street from me. This is in a Rum Shack. Rum Shacks are all over the island. They love their rum. And you could buy little groceries here. You could buy chicken. You could buy whatever you needed. This was like my second family here. Sharon, her boyfriend Andy, their grandson, and I would stop by and we would just hang out and chat and have a beer, have some bread, and I would help them paint the house sometimes, and yeah, really good. And here we have Dopey. He's a farmer. His nickname was Dopey, and he would always have his shirt unbuttoned and his gut just hanging out. He was not ashamed. He was a great guy. Down a little further on the corner was an intersection of 4 roads, and there was an old refrigerator just turned over on its side, and that was the designated liming spot. Liming means hang out. So people would just flock to this spot. They'd have the bottle of rum up there, or maybe cook a pot of food, and music playing, and Ninja was a good friend of mine. Ninja, his nickname after Ninja Turtle, because he was a landscaper and he was just really, really strong. And of course, there's Dopey with his shirt unbuttoned. So another way I really tried to get in and just make friends and get into the community was just playing pool. And that was a great way to do it. Here's another little Rum Shack I was just destroyed by him. He beat me without me getting a turn. And so, one of the first projects during training, you have to do some kind of project to kind of get your feet wet. And so I rounded up kids in the community and we did a litter cleanup. There's a lot of litter. Everywhere there's litter, so I thought it'd be the best way to do it. So from here, I formed a good relationship with the kids in my neighborhood. So after we did a few more cleanups after that, and afterwards we would just play. We would play Frisbee Volleyball. Here we're playing hide and seek. I was hiding in here for a good 5 minutes before they found me. And cricket was a really popular sport in my country as well. So we would play cricket in the street from time to time. In the Peace Corps, you have a primary assignment. It's what you're sent there to do. It's your main assignment. My assignment was to be a secondary school literacy instructor. So I was an assistant to the literacy program. Before I go into that, I'll give you a little background about education in St. Vincent. Before 2007, all kids went to primary school. It's not mandatory, but most kids went to primary school. Not all of them would have an opportunity to go to secondary school because there just weren't enough secondary schools. And so in 2007, there were some loans given to the island through the World Bank and through the European Union. And they built all of these nice, beautiful, big secondary schools. So it gave kids an opportunity to go to secondary school. The problem with that is there's so much illiteracy in the islands and not enough resources to give special attention to these kids. So they were pushed through into the secondary schools. And you have the majority of kids were not able to read, yet they were expected to write exams in English, in history, in math, and all the core subjects. And there was not enough, nothing was really catered to what they needed. So there were a lot of challenges in the school. And so as part of the help, they brought in volunteers, Peace Corps volunteers, to assist with literacy. So that's what my job was. It was to work with one-on-one in small groups with struggling readers. We have Kamisha here. She's one that I worked on. The thing was, the organization, you find in developing countries, the organization of things doesn't always go according to the most ideal situation. And I was assigned a lot of students that had special needs, and I was not equipped to work with these kids. And also my training, we had some training for schools, but none for secondary school for me. Maybe I had 1 or 2 training sessions that worked in secondary schools. The rest were primary school literacy. And secondary school and primary school, it was a very different ballgame, I think. So there were a lot of challenges associated with that. A lot of hair pulling and trudging home, laying on my back, staring at the ceiling, asking why. For the first year, it was like that a lot. But I kept going, and oftentimes my teacher, my co-teacher, would not be there. So then I was left to work with the classes, so that kind of interrupted the flow of doing one-on-ones. So I soon learned that teaching literacy phonics to 13-year-old, 14-year-old students just wasn't working out very well. You know, they were very frustrated, and you know the behavior that can come with that. So I had to try to get more creative. And so I did a little video editing workshop, because I like to do video editing. And we did music videos. We did a few music videos, and I showed them the process of how to make a music video. And so that was great. This is my most challenging class. But after this moment, things got better. So they really enjoyed being a part of this project right here. I was really lucky to have a projector at the school too. So here they are. This is Form 3, Room 9. Also, I was a librarian. And this was when we filled out the library entirely towards the end of my stay. At the beginning, not a lot of books were there, and that's a big issue in the Caribbean. It is a lack of books. So I got some friends and family back home to fundraise through an organization that delivers books. And so we got some books into the school, and also with the new school came more books as well. So these kids were being exposed to more and more books, which is what is desperately needed to get an enthusiasm for reading. Once you get the enthusiasm, then you can build a lot from there. Now, my favorite project that I did with the kids was the journalism club. I worked at a TV station before the Peace Corps in the technical end. So I kind of had some experience with journalists and how things work. And I liked writing, so I thought we would give it a go. And I have a little video. Give me a break from talking and give you a break from listening to me.
No, welcome to Dad. Peace.
Welcome to the largest school of the island of St. Vincent, West St. George Secondary School. This brand new location opened its doors to students on September 5th, 2011. It not only accommodates 400 students, but it is chock full of brand new facilities, including an art room, 2 science labs, a library, a multimedia room, and 2 computer labs equipped with 60 computers. Other opportunities for the children involve a handful of extracurricular activities, while the school's clubs and new facilities aim to improve and promote the education of Vincentian children. There exists a widespread issue.
The students that come to the West St. George Secondary School, a lot of them are normally reading below their grade level. So we find, for example, a number of students who are supposed to be reading at grade 7 or above, they are at grade 2, grade 1, and even below that.
Peace Corps volunteer Chad LaRoche recently proposed an opportunity and a challenge to the kids of West St. George Secondary School. Chad is starting the West St. George Amateur Reporters Club, where he used his experience working in a television station to teach students journalism. After submitting a 1- to 2-page paper introducing themselves and expressing their interests, 10 students will be selected. They will learn to identify stories in their school and community, expand upon those ideas, speak confidently in front of a camera, operate a camera, and edit their stories on a computer. Chad asked teachers and students what they thought of such a club.
I think, well, it's a good opportunity for the school because we will be well prepared for other jobs, especially interviews.
One of the things that our students are lacking is expression. And I think being in such a club is going to enhance the capabilities of expressing themselves.
I think the club is a wonderful idea. I think it gives the students an opportunity to learn and to be able to express themselves, to develop. And I can just see it going places.
SVGTV, the nation's leading news channel, agrees that an amateur reporters club not only promotes the development of young minds to assist in all areas of education, but develops skills that are instrumental in any career field.
There are other benefits of being a reporter. You speak better, you have a better presentation because you know the public's eye.
So now, basically, TV station or something like SVGTV would be looking for folks to do that. More than likely, they will check with you and the club first, see if there is anybody available that could do that sort of work.
With the coming of a new school, a new club, and a new hope, opportunities to develop creativity, promote reading and writing, and encourage the confidence and self-esteem of students are now at their fingertips.
I put that video together to try to raise some money to get this club going. It didn't really come to the full-blown picture that I had imagined with kids with cameras and editing, but we did end up getting some kids together and creating a school newsletter, which was a good success, I would say. It brought about 7 or 8 mostly girls into the club. You find that most of the girls really flock to things like this. It was hard to get the boys on board. But this, we were just walking around the school selling the newsletter here. Just some of the girls in the club, and they would interview and they would write. So it was just a good way to encourage creativity in writing and reading. I did get one boy to help me sell the newsletters. We would walk around the school and the community, go into other primary schools with a big stack of newsletters, which were donated from a local company. They paid for the printing. Yeah, so here we are at a school. Vincent is selling some of the newsletters, and during this time, we finished selling all the newsletters, and we were walking back to the school, and one of the girls said to me, she was really high and excited from this experience, and she said it would be great if we could interview the Prime Minister. And I thought in my head, well, maybe that's possible, maybe that can happen. So here's the Prime Minister, Ralph Gonzalez. At the time, I was a part of a drumming group, a local drumming group, and we were invited to play for the Prime Minister here and some ambassadors. It was a friendship between Venezuela and St. Vincent kind of conference. And so we played, and after the playing, we were at a little cocktail party here. We had some food and snacks, and the Prime Minister walked right by me. He did it once, and then he went back, and then it came back to my head, this girl's desire to do that. And so I said, okay, if he comes back again, I'm going to ask him. And so he came back again, and I said, hey, so here I am, I'm this volunteer, and at this club, and this girl really wants to interview you, and can we make that happen? He said, sure, we can make that happen. Just contact my secretary. So we did, and we got an appointment set up. And the girls started putting together questions to interview him. We had a little session in conducting themselves and how they would talk to the Prime Minister. So this is the day of, in front of the Prime Minister's office. And it was perfect timing with Valentine's Day. All the girls wrote Valentine's Day cards and sat around and we interviewed the Prime Minister. And pretty cool experience. He signed some copies of his book, gave it to the girls, gave it to the school, and yeah, it was a good day. So we had 3 newsletters in all come out. Organized a field trip here like a media field trip. Brought the kids to see some TV station. Well, we wanted to set up a TV station, that fell through. A radio station we saw, and a print station, a newspaper station. And so. It's not, when I left the Peace Corps, another problem you'll see with the Peace Corps volunteers face is the continuation of their projects. When they leave, many of them tend to just fall flat and disappear. Many of them, some of them actually gain strength. In my case, the newsletter, very time consuming, and teachers are stretched very thin at the school, and so it did not continue. But I like to think that the exposure that the kids had is enough to maybe when they're older, they'll recall this moment and so on. So secondary projects are another thing that Peace Corps volunteers are encouraged to undertake. Primary assignments are specific; they're given to the volunteer. Secondary projects, they are whatever the volunteer wants to do. Basically. So you have complete freedom to create whatever secondary project you want. In my case, I was into video and I wanted to learn more about video and editing. So I met this guy, Chester Connell. Chester is a media man. He'd been on the radio. He's well known on the island, and he's looking to grow a media organization where you document agriculture and history of St. Vincent and important people. And so he's looking. He had the camera. He had the computer. He had the connections, but he didn't know how to edit, and he didn't know how. He needed some help to help grow this, and so I linked up with him, and we did some videos. A couple were on TV. A couple, most of them were uploaded onto his Facebook page. But yeah, there's Chester's very smart man. Chester sounds like Cheshire in my mind, and he was like the Cheshire cat to me. He was so intelligent. His ideas going every direction. Kind of had to rope him down to planet Earth. So it's a challenge, but very good experience. And he's still doing things. This was our group. I ended up training her to take my spot. And finally, my last project, I guess you can call it a project. It was more of a hobby, but really it was a project. And these are the drummers. I was part of a cultural drumming group. And I met these guys my first month living with my host family. I heard drums down the road, and I love the drums, so I got my host sister and we ran out there. And I watched them perform, and I met him. He's my neighbor at the time, so I told him, hey, how can I get in on this? And he says, every Thursday we practice. So come on, we'll take you in. And that next Thursday he picked me up. We went into this old shack and sat in our circle and performed. And when we finished, he leans over and says, yeah man, you're in. So I was in. And how much time are we okay? Okay, so let me show you this video right here. This is just some excerpts of performances. This is where we practice. I sang for one song. This is a Christmas show. Recording in my living room. That lasted I was with them for my entire experience, and I grew together with them, and we became very close. And that was one of the most gratifying experiences of the time. I got to reach every corner of the island with them, and we put on a lot of shows. A lot of it was So we had some original material and just they sang a lot about things that were close to them, and we would just jam sometimes. And yeah, at the very end, when I was leaving, they had a goodbye party for me, and we sat in a circle, and I was blown away because they were kind of pouring their feelings out and how much my being a part of their group meant to them and meant to their country. You know, being a white foreigner, we would go into areas of the country where, you know, white foreigners just were not seen very much, and so it's kind of like, what's this guy doing here, playing with these guys? But after we would play, people would see, hey, okay, they're a group, they're together. And so it was a good symbol of kind of unity and forward thinking and moving forward. So that was that. So that was my Peace Corps experience. If you want to know more about Peace Corps, here's their website. Peace Corps is just for U.S. citizens, but there are other international volunteer organizations you can get involved in. There's KOICA, if you're a Korean citizen. I think it might be open to other nationalities as well, I'm not sure, but there's KOICA if you're Korean and you're interested in this kind of work. And VSO, Volunteer Service Overseas, is for anyone around the world. You can check out their website for more information there. And I'll just leave you with one more picture. This was the very beginning. A friend of mine took this picture, and at the very end on the same rock, I set it up for a selfie and had an automatic timer. And I tried to match it as perfectly as I could. And it was an experience that changed you physically, mentally, spiritually, and I encourage anybody that's interested to partake in something like that.